hi, hello, how are you? I'm Pia. Today we're talking about the books that I read in May and the books that I'm planning on reading in June. I haven't done a like combo meal type of video in a long time. I used to do my wrap-ups and TBRs like this, but then they got too long. I didn't have the greatest reading month. I don't know if you know. I'm trying to write a book and it has consumed my brain. So I couldn't really read that much. I read 5 books, which is like the lowest number of books that I have read in a month since I started BookTube, I think. Like, oh man, it's bad, it's bad. But like, realistically, I think like, if I talk to like normal people, you know, like Normal People by Sally Rooney, if I talk to normal people in like their normal lives, if I was like, oh yeah, like I've read 5 books this month, they would be like, what the fuck? Like, that's crazy. That's a lot of books. So I'm trying to like have that perspective, that like mindset, and not like my normal mindset, which is like, I read like almost 20 books a month. So that's why I decided to combine the videos, wrap up, and TBR. We're first gonna talk about the books that I read in May, and then we'll talk about my June TBR and my Summerland Readathon TBR. If you didn't know, I'm hosting a readathon this summer called Summerland. It is happening from June 26th to July 2nd, so the end of this month, and I have a full video announcing it, the dates, the events, the fun things that I have going on with that. It's already up on my channel, so you can check that out and participate as well. Let me know what you guys are gonna be reading for that, and I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna be reading or what I'm thinking about reading. And yeah, let's first talk about what I read in May. First thing that my Goodreads says I read in May is not a book I read in May, so I'm confused. The first book that I read in May was Novelist as a Vocation. This is by Haruki Murakami. I have literally only read Murakami's nonfiction, and this is second nonfiction, so my second one that I've read by him, and it's just about his writing journey, like how he got started, how he's gotten to where he is, and his opinions on various writing things, such as like book awards and getting an education in writing and stuff like that. I didn't love this book. I didn't love it especially like as much as like what I talk about when I talk about running, which was his other nonfiction. I felt like some of his opinions I just didn't care to know, like it just wasn't interesting to me, and other ones I feel like he could have gone more in depth. He just seems like this guy who like sat down one day, which is true, like this is literally like his story. He sat down one day and was like, I'm gonna write a book, and then he wrote a book, and like now he's here. So he just like has that innate ability to just set his mind to something and excel at it for some reason. So I think that was a little bit annoying to read. I don't know, reading a memoir kind of writing book about someone who just like is so good was so smart and like savvy from the get-go was a little bit like, okay. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was pretty good. Then I read another book because I was in my nonfiction era this month, and I read A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. Now I didn't know this was nonfiction, and it's super interesting because she writes this book and she's like, I'm gonna tell you all about why there are not a lot of female writers and like why female writers are so like disparaged and not given enough credit, and it's because all a freaking woman needs is money and a room of her own, and those are like the 2 hardest things to come by if you're a woman in society. And she just like writes this whole thing, talks about male writers and female writers, and it's so interesting. Like everything she was saying, I was like, yes, queen, like you get it, like she's so right, you know, like she's so right. I don't know what else to say about this book. It was really good. I don't know, it's like, it's one of those books like I like snapped my fingers the whole time I was reading it. I was like giving her the snaps, but like after I read it, I can't really summarize what it is that was going on because it wasn't like there wasn't a plot or anything like that. It was just kind of like, here's Virginia Woolf talking about female writers and what she wants to see from female writers and what she thinks about other people's views on female writers, and like that's kind of the book. So I really loved it. I got it from my library, so I definitely will purchase a copy because she gets snaps for that one. Then I decided to enter a new era, which is reading YA contemporaries and YA contemporary romances, because I'm writing YA contemporary romance, because I was like, maybe if I read that, I will A, want to read, and B, want to write. So kind of worked. So I read Love from A to Z. This is a book I used to see a lot more. Back when the girlies read YA contemporaries. Now the girlies do not read YA contemporaries, which is sad. If you have any recommendations for YA contemporary YouTubers, leave them down below. But this is about teenagers who sit on the same flight and they like notice each other, and it's crazy. Like they're like noticing each other, and they have this like same journal, this like Marvels and Oddities journal, and like kind of weird that they have the same journal, but anyway, and they're both like noticing each other on this flight, and then what happens, but they of course like meet each other and whatever. So both of our main characters are Muslim, and that's like a huge influence on this book and our characters' lives and basically everything they have that's going on. It deals with a lot of Islamophobia, especially with our female perspective, because she is like going on this trip the whole reason she's going on this trip is she kind of tried to speak out about this Islamophobia in her school and by this one particular teacher, and then got like suspended for it. And so she's like supposed to cool off or whatever and go on spring break early. And this also deals with like chronic illness, and there's lots of like important conversations going on in this contemporary while we have this like very cute little romance going on. So I love books like that, and I think it was really fun and really well done. There was a sequel which I find interesting because I don't know how I feel about like contemporaries getting sequels, especially like contemporary romances, because then they usually break up the couples and that's not very cool. I probably won't read the sequel, but I did have a fun time reading this and I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Meet Me at the Lake. I read this in a couple of days, which was like so great because I actually like wanted to read, which was crazy. And I read this on the beach. It was a fantastic little beach read. Okay, if you read like Every Summer After, I think like you know what you're getting into with these books. But so basically Fern Brooks met this guy in Toronto, and it was like her last day in Toronto, or it was supposed to be, and she met this guy and they had this like cute wonderful little day together. But she was dating someone, he was dating someone, literally nothing happened. But they made this promise to each other. They were like, well, you know, like we'll see. They make this plan of like what they're gonna be like in a year or whatever, and they're like, well, let's like meet up in a year and like see if we're following our plan, if we're like becoming the people we want to be, whatever. And so a year later, Fern, you know, plops herself down on the pier where they're meeting at the lake, and who is not there but Mr. Will, the guy that she was supposed to meet. So she's kind of carried this weight with her for the last 9 years, which I know to some people sounds ridiculous, but anyway. And she has now kind of ended up in a place in her life that she never kind of saw happening. She's lost her mom. She's ended up in this job and in this role that she never wanted, never saw herself in. And Will comes back into her life and she's like, the fuck? This is great. It's told in dual timelines. This is so me like having a single conversation with someone, or just like making eye contact with someone like at like a coffee shop and then obsessing over them for the next month. Like that is me to a T. Like I am romanticizing my life to the fullest. I am the main character. I am in a rom-com. Like that is my life. I felt this. You know what I mean? Like the day they have together, is it magical? Yeah, it is. Okay. So I could see how you're a little bit obsessed over it. And I think at the end of the day, this is a book about obsession. So you cannot fight me on that. I think it's really cute. And I really liked it. It was so me. I read this book and the entire time I was going, ooh, I see why people don't like this book and why it's exactly working for me. Because like I said, it has a lot of like fun things that I like. I like that she's been pining over this guy for 9 years. I like that she like is still thinking about this one day that they spent together and that they both didn't cheat on their significant others, and I like all that. So I like the relationship. I thought it was strong in the present timeline. I love who they are and I love how they come back together. It's very cute. I liked it a lot and I gave it 5 stars. It really, really worked for me. And then the last book I read this month was Lucky Caller by Emma Mills. I picked this up on a whim because my library had it. I haven't read an Emma Mills in a while, but I have read 2 of her books and really enjoyed them. So I was like, let's complete the backlist, you know, like let's read it all. This is about Nina, whose dad is like this like famous DJ. Well, not famous. He's like a radio show host, has like a morning talk show radio show, and he like moved away. She kind of like resents him a little bit because he's like absentee father to the max. And she has decided to like do this elective course at her high school, which is to like a radio show course. Like they make a radio show, make a podcast or whatever over the course of the semester. And she of course is thrown together with this guy who's like her neighbor and childhood friend, and so they have some things going on there. I really liked it. I thought it was very cute. It had like classic Emma Mills things going on, which I felt like was that it was so easy to read, but it also like it definitely covered some topics like I was talking about, like Nina's father relationship was really interesting and her being like let down by that all the time, and then there's things going on with Jamie and his family, and like why Nina and Jamie are no longer talking, and like that stuff is all I think handled really well. Another thing I like about this book, and I like about Emma Mills in general, is I think she doesn't try to make her teenage characters too old, but she also doesn't try to make them too young. I think she has like a really good balance of knowing like teenagers are fucking dumb, like especially like when we do find out like what happened between Jamie and Nina, you're like, yeah, because you're a fucking kid, like you're an idiot like when you're a kid and you make mistakes like that, and like it just makes sense. I feel like their age really matched their actions and the things that they were saying and doing, and I really appreciated that, because that's something, I don't know if a lot of people talk about that in like YA books, but sometimes you can really tell when like a 30-year-old is writing as a 16-year-old and you're like, no. This time I was like, oh, she nails it. She nails the fact that like these characters are making these mistakes are not fantastic people, but they're learning and growing and whatever. So I really liked that about this book, and I really like that about Emma Mills in general. I think I only have one more of her books. No, two more of her books to read, but I haven't seen her come out with anything recently. If you know, I should probably check, but anyway. The last thing, I think this title was stupid. It only came around towards the end, and I was like, this has literally nothing to do with the plot, and I think the title is dumb. I think we should change it. So, but other than that, I gave it 4 stars. Now let's get into my TBR for June, otherwise known as my Summerland TBR. Summerland is a readathon that's only a week long, but I kind of made my TBR such that it is, I'm just gonna free flow it when I'm gonna daily vlog, and I'm going to show you what I'm reading every day, but I'm not gonna like choose what I want to read for every specific prompt, because that's just, I'm not a TBR gal. Let's talk about some books I might read. I took all my books that I haven't read off my like normal shelves and like moved them down below on like my lower shelf, because I am very mad at the books I haven't read and mad at myself about them. I want to read Once More a Feeling. I just got this in the other day because it came out like the last day of the freaking month. This again looks like a romance that I would really enjoy. It's about a pop star. Oh, it's also blurred by Carly Fortune, who wrote the book I was just talking about. Anyway, a former pop star finds herself back in the spotlight along with an old flame in this friends to lovers meets enemies to lovers story. So here's my favorite trope, a little like insight into me. My favorite trope is, oh my gosh, we were friends and then we hated each other and now we're friends again and now we're dating. The jump from enemies to lovers is a hard one to make. It is, and I don't think people understand that there usually is a bridge period where they're friends and getting along, and that's called friends to lovers, and I just think most people like friends to lovers and they just won't admit it to themselves. But anyways, I love friends to lovers, so I'm very excited about this one. I also just love like singing in books and music in books, and I think it's about like, I want to say it's on Broadway. Yeah, hell yeah, she's on Broadway. I noticed the chapter titles are like Broadway song lyrics or songs. They're not all song lyrics, but like they're Broadway adjacent. Like I saw Dead Girl Walking and I was like, Heather's the musical. Like I love being 15. So I'm really excited to read those. I think it's gonna be a good one. I think I rated Funny You Should Ask 5 stars, so pretty high hopes for this one. I also would like to make some more headway through The Way of Kings. I read about half of this last month, so I think I could make some more progress with it. It is one that I'm having a blast reading. I'm having such a fun time reading this book. I'm sorry, I just love how floppy it is and I will keep doing this. But it's so good, and I actually, okay, well, I don't care about, oh, Dalinar, like, I do not care about Dalinar, but everyone else is my favorite. So other than that, I'm really enjoying this, and I think I could finish it. Like, I think I could do it. This is like not summery, but it's summery to me. Like I always read fantasy in the summer, or big books in the summer. Next book I'm going to read is Yerba Buena. I'm definitely going to read this book because it's the group book for my readathon, the Summerland readathon. I'm gonna say that so many times. This is a book I know nothing about, and it was voted on by you guys, and I was like, this looks interesting. I'm sure at one point I knew what it was about, but I know it's like literary fiction. I think it's queer, so Pride Month. And I would also like to read The Vacationers. I don't have this here with me, but I do have it over there, and this is another Emma Straub book. It's her lowest rated, which I think is interesting. I am working my way through Emma Straub. She is one of my like favorite authors. I don't know, like an author that I'm like enjoying reading from lately. I've rated the other 2 books I've read from her 5 stars, so like if I give this one 5 stars, then I think she'll solidify her place as a favorite author, but right now I don't want to jinx it. This one just seems summery, so I'm gonna read it. I also want to read The Pisces because this looks really weird, and I again am like really into weird books in the summer, so this one, I don't even know. I believe this is like speculative, like it's mixing like sea creatures into like a contemporary. Like, I just think she falls in love with a fish. Like, you know what? Like, I think that's what happens. So I'm excited. I've heard it's like weird, but also like really written well, so I'm interested. It sounds interesting. I also would like to read You Don't Have a Shot. This is the new Raquel Marie. It is a Bend It Like Beckham retelling, I want to say. Like rivals to lovers, YA contemporary, it's queer, it's sapphic, and I'm excited to read it. I just put The Loan on hold for it at my library because I was like, I can't read it yet, it's not June. I also want to read The Summer of Broken Rules. I have an arc of this author's like next book. I think they're coming out with like 2 books next year, and I haven't read this one, but I remember seeing it a lot like last summer, and it seems like The Summer I Turned Pretty, and we all know my history with The Summer I Turned Pretty, so I'm apprehensive. Like, I also kind of want to watch The Summer I Turned Pretty, even though I remember how bad it was. Those are some books I might read. I will definitely be vlogging my Summerland readathon experience. I'm also going to try to do like at least 1 or 2 other not that readathon related reading vlogs this month, and of course doing my writing vlogs as well. So lots of content, lots of fun things coming up for you guys to watch. Yeah, make sure to let me know if you're participating in the Summerland readathon, what you got up to reading wise in May. And with that being said, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to all the things, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.